I felt so uncomfortable with sales. It was really hard for me to figure out how to do it in a way that felt good. I did it by tying every task I did in marketing to sales too, because that was my comfort zone. And that's my love language. And it feels a lot less icky to sell when you're really just solving problems.
Welcome to Girls Make Bank. Hi and welcome. Today we are talking to Sarah Noel Block, who is the founder of Tiny Marketing and the creator of the Lean Marketing Engine. Sarah has over 10 years experience in marketing and operations, and today's conversation is juicy. Sarah is someone that I binge listen to on her own podcast called Tiny Marketing, and she shares lots of insights into how to have a lean and mighty marketing and sales engine. So if you have a lean team and you are wearing multiple hats, you're the salesperson, you are the fulfillment person, you're the invoice person, you are the marketing person, this is an episode you want to listen to. Sarah is an expert in building marketing programs that are geared towards solopreneurs and really lean teams. And today she's sharing some really important insights into how to create a system that works for a lean team, how to test and innovate your marketing funnels, what KPIs you should be tracking as a small team. And we talk about the different vehicles that can be really effective for lean marketing and sales teams. So stick around. You're definitely going to want to hear this. Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
I'm so excited. I'm a huge fan of yours. I binge your podcast all of the time. And so
Thank
I'm
you.
really excited to have you on and to share a little insight and wisdom with our listeners.
I can't wait.
Before we get started, tell us a little bit about Tiny Marketing and what you do.
So I work with consultants, fractionals, and service providers to help them build the foundations, their lean marketing engine, so they can market themselves and they don't have to rely on someone else to do it for them.
I love that. And how did you get started? Take us back to the early part of your career.
Oh my, we're going to go back in time. Well, I've always been in marketing since 2008, my very first job. I was always working in a small marketing department, so I had to figure out how to make it work. And the job that really did that for me was I was a one-person marketing department for a 7-company group. I had 7 company presidents that I was answering to. They had different audiences, different product offerings. It was a lot. So it was that experience that helped me build the framework of the engine that I take my clients through today, because I had no choice. I had to figure it out.
I mean, I don't even know how that is humanly possible. You're essentially running marketing for 7 different businesses at the same time.
Yes, that is why I was overwhelmed and
Yeah.
just like crying in my cubicle. But then I, pulled up my big girl pants and I put together this framework that worked really well. And we ended up getting to our highest year in a 60-year history. And it was 40% marketing attributed.
And I know you from our past conversations and just listening to your podcast and knowing some of the work you do, you're very focused on implementing a system and a process that works for your clients. Can you talk a little bit about why that is so important for small teams?
Yeah. Once you have a tight strategy in place, then just systematize everything, because you don't have the time to experiment with a bunch of different places. You don't have channel managers to take care of it. So what I do is I interview your favorite customers and I build a strategy meant to replicate them, to clone them. So we're bringing in people systematically as leads and we're converting them systematically because we know exactly what they need to know, what objections they're going to have, and how to convert them.
What are some of the common challenges that you see businesses face when there is a small or no team. So you're a solopreneur, you're in charge of everything: sales, marketing, deliverables, accounting, all of the things. Where do you see people sort of falling down when it comes to sales and marketing in those situations?
I would say it's watching what other people are doing and trying to replicate it. You're only seeing the top of the iceberg when you are trying to copy someone else's strategy, and you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes that's really making it work and closing those sales. You need to learn for yourself what works by, analyzing those sales calls that you've had in the past. You probably have transcripts sitting on your drive from sales calls that didn't convert that you can use to build out a strategy, even if you don't have current clients that you would want to replicate. You can take those and build a strategy that is easy to replicate and do over and over.
And so if you're looking at something like a call that hasn't converted, or an email funnel, right? Whatever it might be, what are the things that you're looking for to sort of hone in on, oh, here's what I should be doing different, and here's how I should be tracking that to see if I'm moving the needle or not?
Well, it would be two different things. If we're looking at the sales call that didn't convert, you, I really hope, at least this is how I do it, ask a lot of questions during that call and you got a ton of information. So, those sales calls, you're asking them about their goals, you're asking them about the challenges they're going through. What have they tried that didn't work? What has worked in the past? Where are they getting their leads now? What communities are they part of? Who are their ideal customers? You're asking those questions in the sales call, and you probably just let it go right out of your ear after that call was over. You're like, oh, they didn't convert. Never mind. Instead, take those transcripts, put it in ChatGPT, and start asking questions like, what are the biggest challenges that were talked about in these calls? Just upload a bunch of transcripts. What goals did they have? What has been working for them? And you can start building a strategy based off of the actual customers and what they talked about, but do it a lot faster because you're asking ChatGPT to comb those transcripts for you.
So I love that you brought up Chat GPT, because I feel like if you haven't already tried to use AI in your business, this is a great way to sort of test and see, how are you using AI in your business, and how are you encouraging your clients to test and sort of gain insights and kind of streamline what they're doing?
Well, a huge part of what I do is interview people for my podcast, but also like my own clients' customers. And I use ChatGPT a lot for those transcripts just to comb through and get more information. But other ways I use it is I always recommend my clients have anchor content or core content, one thing that they're willing to do on a regular basis and a cadence that they can stick to. So I use AI to get as much out of that core content as possible. So my podcast is mine, but I'll use Descripts AI and have it edit all my videos for me. So now I can have it on YouTube and I don't have to do anything extra. They're doing it for me. I use Opus to cut the clips and I just ask it, like, I use prompts. I want the most valuable pieces cut from this, or I want whatever was most actionable in this interview to be cut. I use ChatGPT to write my show notes because I like them very specific. I like them super actionable. So I've trained my ChatGPT and just throw in my transcript then, and it spits out the kind of show notes that I like. I also use it to repurpose my transcript into an actionable article that doesn't look anything like the podcast. And I'll use that for my LinkedIn newsletter. So those are some of the ways that I use it. I use it in a lot of ways, though.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's some good tips that people can start to play around and test with. And along those lines, how do you see automation being an important part of a sales and marketing funnel, especially for a solopreneur, very small
Oh my
team?
gosh. Well, I say this all the time, but like your money is made in email.
Yeah.
And
I'm a
Email
huge,
automation.
huge advocate for email. I have
Mm,
been for a
love it.
long time, and I still feel like it's the best bang for your buck in terms of marketing.
It really is. It's
Yeah,
something like for every, it has the highest ROI of all
for
marketing
sure.
channels is email. And it's so intimate. It's like a one-to-one conversation, but it's easy to automate on there too. It's like the first thing you learn when it comes to automation is email automation. So anytime you are, someone downloads your lead magnet or you sell a micro offer or a digital product, it should pull them into an email automation funnel that gives them little teaching moments that makes them more intrigued to go into your signature offer
Hmm.
or just a bigger offer than what it was, or an upsell or an order bump, different ways to cross sell from there. And another thing that I love with email marketing is link actions. So if you want to sell to people when they're ready to buy, they've raised their digital hand. When they click on a link that would show that they're interested in a specific offer. Like, let's say you have a master class that's on a topic related to your signature offer, and they click on it. You can set up an action where it segments them into this interest list.
Yeah.
And then you can start emailing them about that specific offer, knowing that they're like, yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah. And I love what two of the things I love about email is along those lines is like you set something up once you create an email sequence, you create a link action and you have to maintain it, you have to change anything that, becomes not relevant, but that work compounds over time. Once you set it up, anybody new that you pour into the top that fits into that segment or takes that action will reap the benefits of that. And so I really do think that when you're working with a small team, email, when set up and used properly, can be incredibly powerful.
You just need to make sure that that email series is optimized because it could bring in thousands and thousands of dollars every month. And just earlier, you asked a question, and I think that I talked about something else instead, but it was it was how do you use your emails and figure out where like that drop off is happening, what needs to be optimized, and really just track the open and the engagement that's happening on those emails and seeing where in that series people are falling off. Maybe you talk about an objection that you assume that people will have and they didn't really, and they're like, all right, this is not relevant to me. And they stop answering those emails. They stop opening them up. So it's fairly easy because it's all data driven to look in your sequence and see, oh, people are dropping off on email 3. What did I say in there? That sucked so much.
How much time do you in your own business and do you recommend people spend sort of looking at that kind of data? Because there's a fine balance. You can just spend all day looking at the analytics and fine tuning and tweaking, or you can never look at it. And I don't think
Yeah.
either is the right scenario for running a successful business.
No,
What's a good rule of thumb?
I have always done monthly, look at it and optimize it. But like if you're super busy, you just don't have time for it, do like a pre and post launch
Hmm.
analysis. See what happened in the last launch. And if there's any tweaks you should make, then do the launch. And
Yeah.
then post launch, see what happened. Was there a drop off at any point?
What are some key metrics that you track in your business and set up a dashboard or whatever it is for your clients to track?
All my clients have different goals. So I set up the reports based off of that. But one thing that I always track is conversions because the most important thing is getting people on that email list. So I'm seeing where those conversions are happening. I also look at like close rate on sales because it could be something around messaging that's falling short or the container of the offer. I love to like dig in deep on the offer piece of it because you might have something really amazing that could just do a little tweak and it would sell really easily, but you're not going to know that unless you dig in a little bit and do the work.
Talk to me about the container. What does that mean?
By container, I mean, what's the experience that a client is going to go through when they work with you? Like, let's say you have a service business. What's the process you take them through? Are they going to fill out a form first? Do they have an onboarding call with you? What does it look like inside? Are you doing all the work or is it done with you? How long does it take? Is there a live and an async piece to it? Things like that.
One other thing on email, because I think solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business founders can get really overwhelmed with all of the different places where we can market and advertise and get sales from. And I think there's this desire to like grow and go viral on social media and,
That doesn't matter.
have it does not matter. And I've had clients before where when we start working together, I'm like, we have to have an email newsletter, list. We have to have an email newsletter list. And then their Facebook page gets hacked or they lose, Instagram changes the algorithm. The email list is actually the only marketing funnel that you own.
Yeah.
Everything else lives on another platform. And I think, the value of owning your list and owning that relationship is super, super important and lets you do things and kind of manage the relationship and manage the communication in a way that no other platform does.
Yeah, absolutely. My priority is always owned. You own your website. So your messaging needs to be on point and it should be on your own, like your own website and not like a Substack or something like that. Because they could just leave. Email is another one. And then having that bank of your core content. What is your signature series? That way that you can build relationships with people, nurture your clients. Those are the three things that are like, no, you have to have those three things.
I love that list. I love that list. And it gives everybody a little audit to now go back and check what does my website look like? A lot of times you're creating a site, you put it out there and then you never revisit it.
I know so many
Yeah.
people
I
who,
am guilty of that myself in the
yes,
past.
rely on social. Like,
Yeah.
I have a great following on social, so I'm not going to bother with my website. Girl, you own your website.
Yes.
That's your home. That's your digital
Yes.
home.
Yes. I totally agree. I love that. How has your approach to sales and marketing changed over time? We talked about how you sort of solidified the need for a system and a process when you were managing seven
Yeah.
different companies. But now that within Tiny Marketing, from the beginning to now, how has what you are doing changed and evolved?
Yeah. So I would the system itself has remained, but what has changed is my perspective. I now have to sell. I have to have sales as part of my process. So now it's really important to me that every step of marketing sells for me. So everything that I do needs to either be a biz dev, to win with biz dev, or it needs to sell for me. And all marketing is tied to those two things.
I love that. And I think that's what this is all about, right? Is teaching women how to use every opportunity to sell. And I think selling can feel really uncomfortable for people. And we have a perception of what it feels like, and it's not good to either be sold to or to sell. And I think when you're doing it the right way, when you have the strategy and the vehicles and the message that one feels authentic and resonates with you, but also is hitting your target market in the right way, it can feel really good.
I am with you 100% on that. And that was me. I felt so uncomfortable with sales. And for years, my business was all retainers. So I had to sell like once 4 years ago, but I didn't have to sell again because they just stayed with me. And then when I felt called to create a more scalable business where I would need to sell to people more regularly, it was really uncomfortable and it was hard for me to figure out how to do it in a way that felt good. And this is how I did it. I did it by tying every task I did in marketing to sales too, because That was my comfort zone. And that's my love language. Like every email I write is a little love letter to the people that I'm writing to because I want them to get value from it. And it feels a lot less icky to sell when you're really just solving problems.
I love that. And that's something I hear over and over again is, there's this combination, I think, of being really passionate and confident about the solution that you provide for your customer, and then also building that muscle and the skill set of how do you sell? What is the message? What are the right vehicles? And I think a lot of people who are either starting out or looking to scale have a similar experience of like, okay, shoot, this is hard, or
Yeah.
doesn't feel good. How do I do this in a way that one feels good and two gets results? I love that sort of every piece has to sell for you.
Yeah, it was like probably 6 months of a messy middle as I was trying to figure it out. And then once I got in the groove of it, I was like, oh, selling is actually easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And people underestimate, I think they think it either happens overnight or it takes years and years and years. I think with discipline and focus, you will be amazed at how tight you can get your sales process and your message and your, packages together when you put your blinders on and put your head down and figure it out.
Yeah, and I think that your offer ecosystem has a lot to do with that. When you have the right offers in place, it becomes so much easier to pull people through from one win to the next.
And you mentioned something when you were moving your business from retainer to something that could scale. Can you talk to us about when and how you made that decision? Because for a lot of consultants and coaches and service-based founders, that's a kind of scary
It was
thing to
scary.
do.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I think that I was in year 3 when I decided to do that. And it was more just like, you know how your body just speaks to you? Like, it was just like this voice in the back of my head always like, you need to do this. You're not able to serve as many people by having these retainers. And there's a lot of people who need this. So like this nagging voice wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, it's so much easier though to have retainers. I don't have to sell. So, but I just felt called to do it. So I started that transition and I kept some of my retainers. So the transition would be a little easier. And it was when I built out the offer ecosystem that allowed leads to flow through my offers that it finally clicked and it got easier for me.
And one of the things that I talk to a lot of people about is sort of how do you figure out your offer suite? And what is the mix? Because I see one of two things happening. Either everyone is not everyone, but a lot of people will get super bespoke. So basically and this tends to be retainer, based businesses where every client is sort of like a custom service, a custom deliverable, or they're offering tons of different options. And the person coming to them looks at this menu of 50 things and is feeling incredibly overwhelmed.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
There is, for those people who love bespoke, that's fine. You can. And there is a way to systematize it in a way. You can have it packageable. And in your gateway offer, that's when you determine all of the custom pieces of it. And then you're able to pull them into that bespoke package, but it's already kind of predetermined. You have the pieces, it's just like plug and play those other elements. So I would recommend doing that. But as far as offer ecosystems, this is how I think about it. The framework that you have built within your business, whether you realize it or not, you have a framework. There's a process, a journey you're taking your clients through. You just need to sketch it out. It exists. And that would be your signature offer once you have finally like actually sat down and wrote it out. That's your signature offer. And then you need to find the right container for it. So that's like bullseye. And that's the number we use for like revenue forecasting. But then you need to work backwards and forwards. So that's the core. Then we'll work backwards and we need a gateway offer. This is like an entry point for our clients to come in. It's a comfortable price point where it's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, but
I'll test
and
this out.
yeah, it's worth testing out. So that's the point where you would build out the strategy and figure out what are those custom pieces that they would need and what challenges are they going through? What goals do they have? And this is a key piece. You don't want to miss out on this gateway offer because that sets up the foundation for that signature offer. It'll be like a no-brainer win for them because you have that foundation in place. So you work backwards from there. And then backwards once more, you can have micro offers. These are offers less than $97. And it just is more of like a paid way to build your list. You're pulling people in. It can provide a win for them in a couple of hours, less than a day. That's your goal for a micro offer. And just paid list building. That's what it is. And then you work backwards once more and you have your lead magnets. You have passive lead magnets. These are like digital products, downloadable. You have active lead magnets. These look like virtual events, webinars, panels. And then going back to that core of your signature offer, you can have the add-ons, the back end, like any support, like, hey, you get 30 days of Voxer coaching with me. Or you need a logo package and social media templates to go with your brand. Like those are add-ons that can be given on the back end.
And then you have a 5-part marketing system. I would love for you to walk us through high level what that is and how it's impactful for your clients.
Yeah, actually, let's break it down even easier. I do it in 3 milestones. So we'll go with the 3. So the first one is the offer ecosystem. And that's like what I just walked you through. Easy peasy. But in there is the lead magnets, the lead generators is part of that. And that's huge because you need to figure out where people are before they're ready to work with you. That's the point that you want your lead generators at. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the mark is they're like, this is something that'll be really valuable for you based off of what I take my clients through. But your leads are actually a little bit behind that. So you need to make those accessible.
Back up even more. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then the next step to it is dream client messaging. Having those conversations with your clients that you really like and build a messaging strategy that speaks directly to them. As soon as you start creating your messaging to speak directly to that person, everything will change. People will start raising their hands and saying, oh, that's me. She solves my problem. And so that's a huge thing is dream client messaging. And then the third one is your visibility plan. So how are you going to get people to notice that you exist in the first place? And that would be your core content. It would be what one social media platform or even a community. It doesn't have to be social. It could be a community. Are you willing to show up on regularly and add value? So those are the pieces.
And how can people find you?
I hang out on LinkedIn, so they can find me there. And then my website is sarahnoelblock.com.
I love that. I will continue to learn and listen to your Tiny Marketing podcast. I encourage everyone, if they haven't, to check it out. And I appreciate everything that you've shared with us. I think having a lean and mighty sales and marketing team is the way a lot of us start out. And so I think, doing it in a smart way and, incorporating some of the things that you talked about, I think will really make a difference for a lot of people listening. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Make Bank. If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe, like, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Please review and share our show to help spread the word and help your girls make bank. And I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, or visit honeybeesgroup.co. Until next time, friends.